Well, hello. I survived the weekend. Tell you what, it was a whole lot of uncomfortableness for me. Very outside my comfort zone. So, you know the drill. Grab your beverage and a seat and let's chat. So, I'm very tired. If you can't tell, I am extremely tired. Did not sleep well, or enough. But it was a really interesting time. I know a lot of people would say, like, Amy, are you crazy? You slept with 5 other women in a cabin that you didn't even know? Yeah, I did. What happens if they snored? Some of them did. What happens if they're, I don't know, wild and crazy and you're not? Some of them were. And you know, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me tolerance. It taught me that I sit in judgment when I shouldn't. And, you know, it's human nature to judge a book by its cover, but I was floored by when you look at people, you never know what their life is like, right? Just by looking at them. And some people formed opinions of me based on the way I arrived. And I formed, thoughts and things about them by maybe some of their choices or the way that they were dressed. And it was eye-opening when I actually took the time to sit and get to know them. Intentionally putting myself in uncomfortable situations and having conversations that were difficult, that were awkward, that were strained, that were not easy. Not easy meaning not that they didn't flow, but I just felt like I was the one that was initiating the conversation. You know what I mean? And look, I am the first one that tells you you need to live outside your comfort zone. But I'm also here to tell you that I don't preach what I don't do myself. I lived outside my comfort zone this weekend. You might say to yourself, Amy, what was outside your comfort zone? Well, there was quite a bit. People who walked around with pasties on their breasts was a little uncomfortable and unnerving for me. People whose, what's it called, vernacular? Their vocabulary, their everyday conversation was using the word bitches and fuck and the C word and the P word, which I don't even say those words. I don't even say those words. And so it was literally like cold water in the face, right? Were these people nice? They were beyond nice. Were they kind? They were beyond kind. They were warm and accepting. They just conducted themselves differently than me. And I found myself initially sitting in judgment on that. I think it was because I was so uncomfortable and it wasn't something that I would do. I wouldn't walk around outside with nothing on the top of me amongst people I don't even know. I just wouldn't do it. I don't even do it typically with the people I know. So a lot more modest, I guess. And so that was unnerving. Does that make them bad people? Absolutely not. When they choose to partake in recreational activities that I don't partake in, it just sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable. But they didn't make me feel uncomfortable. They didn't pressure me. They didn't try to persuade me. They didn't blow me off because I said no. Everyone was very kind and accepting. And it was a wonderful example and opportunity for me to check myself. It was a personal growth opportunity. More personal growth for me. Cheers. I did have a good time. I did. I did things that were uncomfortable. They were very warm and accepting and inviting, but I had to initiate. It was very easy for me to just sit in my cabin during free time because I had put myself out there and attempted to introduce myself and talk with total strangers, and I didn't have a buddy to sit next to during our talent show. I didn't have somebody to go and do things with, like grab a bite to eat. I didn't. And so I had to put myself out there. I had to sit at tables and invite myself to conversations. And like I said, it would have been easier to grab my food and sit in my cabin all by myself. Yes, absolutely. And did I do that? No. I grabbed my food and I went out and I sat with everybody else. Even though I couldn't eat what they offered, I sat at a table where I knew no one and just listened or attempted to add to the conversation, ask questions. And I learned a lot about some really interesting people. I met somebody who she calls herself the legal drug dealer for hospice. Never, looking at this woman, you never would guess that that's what she did. Never. There's others that, it just goes to show to stay open-minded and to not be so quick to judge and think that just by the way someone looks or acts or behaves that you know their background, you know their life that they live, because we really don't. We really don't. I think that, I know that. I didn't even realize it until later, that some people looked at me very differently because we flew into a really tiny airport near this camp facility. And we were able to borrow a car from the airport. They have what's called these crew cars. And I didn't realize, but on the side of the car, it had the airport. And John was kind enough to drive me and help me with my stuff and drop me off and left. And somebody eventually, after drinking or whatever, said to me, "Wow, did you really fly into such and such?" And I said, yeah. It doesn't even occur to me that that's an odd thing to do because I've done it for so long. My husband has been in that industry for so long, and we are just now taking advantage of it. Just now being able to take a small plane and fly somewhere. After being married for over 30 years, we just didn't do it. We didn't have a plane. We didn't have the capacity to borrow planes. And we've been very fortunate and blessed to have one now. And I didn't even give it a second thought. And so they all looked at me like I don't know, I don't know what they thought, honestly, but they're like, "Man, you flew into the little, who does that?" Most people drive, or they fly into a big airport and drive a couple of hours. And so, I had to bust those opinions, right? Maybe they weren't wanting to socialize with me because they thought I was maybe hoity-toity, which I am the furthest thing from that. And so it just goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. And I learned that really hard this weekend. I also realized this weekend that there are some things that I really enjoy doing, and then there's some things that are still uncomfortable for me. Putting on a bathing suit and sitting out by a pool is still incredibly uncomfortable for me. I did. Somebody invited me to do it during free time, and I was just going to not do it. Wasn't going to do it. I was just going to sit and hope that I could get some sort of signal, because there was like no signal there. There was Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi kept dropping. And someone said, no, come out by the pool. So I put on my bathing suit and I went out by the pool. And I sat there for like an hour, and I talked to people. I didn't sit with the person that invited me. That would be easy, right? Because I knew them at that point. I sat with people I hadn't met yet, because that was the whole point, was to constantly put myself in uncomfortable situations, to meet more people. It doesn't do me any good to go and talk to the same people through the whole, I don't get to meet anybody new or more people. And maybe there's someone I connect more with than the person I just met. But I won't know that if I hold on to them like a security blanket, like don't leave my side, right? And there were times that I wanted to do that, absolutely. And on occasion, I leaned a little bit more into that when I got tired. It's a lot of mental, emotional energy that gets put forth when I'm in uncomfortable situations where I don't know a single soul, where people are participating in activities that I choose not to participate in. I don't judge them for it. I just feel uncomfortable being around people that are doing something that I don't choose to do. And we'll leave it at that. And so I put myself in that situation. I sat with people who are doing things that I choose not to do, and worked to treat it as if it was something that was customary in my everyday life. I worked hard to adjust. You can see I'm still stumbling. I'm still stumbling over all of it. I'll just explain. I don't eat gummies and I don't smoke weed, and it's nothing against the people that do. I just don't do it. And I don't feel comfortable when people are doing that. And then I'm just kind of sitting there and I feel awkward and I feel like I don't belong there. And I feel a lot of weird things. And I forced myself to sit in the weirdness. People who are half dressed. I was in a picture with my arm around a woman who is half dressed, that I didn't even know. Lots of opportunities to be incredibly uncomfortable and to get comfortable being uncomfortable. By the end, was I more comfortable seeing half-naked women? Yes, I was more comfortable. Still not something that I was going to do, but became a little bit desensitized to it. My vernacular is not using things like howdy bitches, shut the fuck up, and that's not the way I typically speak. And so it was jarring initially. It was. And it eventually became less jarring the more I put myself in that situation, and didn't like cringe every time I heard, saw, experienced something that was out of my norm, out of my everyday. That's why I went. I didn't want my everyday. I have that every day. I wanted some fun and something totally and completely different, and I got it in so many ways. I got to meet such incredible women, people who persevered and do incredible things with their lives. And who enjoy cutting loose and breaking free every once in a while at a camp. We did some really fun games where you they did telephone. Do you know the game telephone? Where you whisper something in someone's ear and you're like, hey, green eggs and ham on a black skillet. And then you can only say it once, and they tell the person in front of them, next to them, and so on and so on. Well, they did something similar. They had one person, the team captain was facing the first person. Everybody else had their backs facing. And she did 4 moves to a count of 8. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And she did that once, and that person had to then turn around, tap the person on the shoulder, and show them the 4 moves and see how close at the end the moves were to the person who started it. Many times we didn't even get past the first person. It was amazing to see, interesting to watch, because we were broken up into different teams, segmented by colors. I was on the red team. And so I got to watch the yellow team, the pink team, the green team, the purple team, all the different teams do it. But when it came to me, my turn to take part, it was challenging, because I was like, what are you doing? And she couldn't do it again. I was like, what did you do with your So then I just had to make it up and do the best I could. I think we won second place with that one. We did pretty well with that one overall, but it was fun. It was fun to not be wound so tight, to let loose, to laugh. My cabin won first place in the balcony decorating. I'm gonna post some pictures, don't worry. I also took a video. I decided to enter the talent show. Now, if you know me, there's not a whole lot of things that I can show in a talent show. Meaning, I can crochet. I can do things like that, but you're not going to do that in a talent show, right? And I'm not a singer, not so much of a dancer either, although my daughter is great at both of those. I saw this TikTok and I thought, this is perfect for this group of people. And so I downloaded the audio and I was a 1-person band. And I will post that video for you. Oh, I actually won an award. I won an award for it. Yeah. It was fun. It was really, really fun. And the funniest thing is, it was banging pots and pans. I was a 1-person band, and the pots and pans were attached to my body. And afterwards, they called me the pot lady, which literally makes me giggle, considering I don't smoke. And many of them did. And so I was known as the pot lady after that. Touche. We literally just got home today. And I know it's later than normal, but I made you a promise to come on Monday through Friday, and I do my very best to keep my promises to you. And I just wanted to check in, let you know that I did survive the weekend. I hope you did as well. I hope that if you get an opportunity to catch yourself judging others and instead ask inquisitive, curious questions of them, you just might be surprised by people, by the kindness of people, by the things people actually do or believe. Maybe someone doesn't look like you, whether that means they are wearing things that don't show any skin, or whether that means they're tatted and pierced everywhere. They might not look or dress like you. But if you take a few minutes to stop judging, which is we're human nature, and actually talk to them and ask them some curious questions, you might be really surprised at the people that are behind those things. And ask, questions. What does this tattoo mean? What is the meaning behind this? When did you get this? Why did you get this? Why is your, ear pierced, or your nose pierced, or your tongue pierced? Did it hurt? These are questions I want to know. Did it hurt? Does it get infected? Does it get snagged on things? If it's metal, does it get wicked ass hot when you drink a cup of coffee? Like, ask those curious questions. And it makes them laugh because, they realize a lot of people think it but never ask. It's refreshing when you ask. Curious, not offensive. It's all curious, inquisitive. And so yeah, I did what I asked you to do. I put myself in uncomfortable situations. I forced myself to get adjusted to things that I don't normally get to experience. And it was tiring. It was very, very tiring. Some of the other things that they did a silent disco. Have you ever seen or been involved in a silent disco? Okay, so this is how they do it. They give everybody headphones, and on the headphones are like 2 or 3 different stations playing 2 to 3 different types of music. And whatever you want to listen to, that's what you listen to. And so I watched, and it was very interesting because you could see who was on what station by the color of their headphones. Like, I think green was country and blue was pop. I think there were 2 stations. And so people started singing the songs that were playing on their headphones, and they're all dancing in different ways because they're listening to different types of music, and they could switch back and forth. And it was very interesting how many people, I guess when a certain song was playing that most people didn't like, they would switch to the other station, and you would see that the majority of the group would always be on one station. There would always be those outliers that were on the other station. But for the most part, they all kind of congregated on one station or the other, depending on what was playing. And that was really fun to watch. We made friendship bracelets. We did tattoos, the ones that the temporary ones where you put water on. Yeah, we did those. We did, they did a craft with a bandana that you rip into strips, and then you braid different colors, and then you take charms and you put it on the bandana and you use it as a necklace. Goodness, what else did we do? We did line dancing. We did interesting yoga, facilitated by a boudoir photographer. So that was interesting. We did camper mail, where each cabin got a box and people would put things in the box for the different people in the cabin. And then they passed out the things. I was like, who's going to give me anything? They don't even know me. But, they made sure that everybody got something. I brought something for everybody. But they made sure that everyone got something, right? The captains or the leaders of the teams made sure that everyone on their team got a gift. So you got at least one thing. I think 1 or 2 things at least. And most of those were like a bag of good, like all sorts of different things in there. So those were really fun. What else? They had a camp store. Oh, they had those forever, or are they called forever bracelets or anklets, where they put them on and then they solder them on you. That was kind of cool. What else did they do? They had jewelry. It was fun. It was super duper fun. They also had a pool table, a ping pong table, a foosball table, basketball courts. They had paddle board and kayaks. So when we had free time in the afternoon, we were free to go and do that if we wanted. And nobody pressured you. So if for some reason you didn't want to do the yoga, we were busy decorating our balcony. We didn't have time to do the yoga because the balcony decorating was taking us longer. And I'm so glad we did it because we won. And yes, I will post pictures of that as well. But nobody pressured you to do or not do anything. If you wanted to take this as a weekend and literally just sleep the whole weekend, that's fine. That's fine. If you wanted to pick and choose the things you wanted, that's fine. The fact that I literally could not eat a single thing that they were offering, I thought, oh, well, that's going to look like the odd man out. But it didn't. It didn't. Nobody knew whether or not I was eating the dinner that was provided or the lunch that was provided. Nobody knew. Nobody cared. And it was refreshing to not feel that societal pressure in order to take part or conform or any of that. It was really refreshing. It was great. In that respect, it was really, really great. It was great to be outdoors. It was fun. It was really, really fun. They asked if I would come back next year. I don't know. They do it in Texas in October, and then they do one in North Carolina in, I think it's April or May. And if you're interested, put GAL Camp, Grown Ass Ladies Camp, or you can just Google it, Grown Ass Ladies Camp. And if you go, tell Charlie I say hello. She's the organizer of the event. And, it is all that they promise and a whole lot more. It just comes wrapped in a little bit of a different wrapping paper for me. And it was good. It was good. It gave me the opportunity to work through so many things that I avoid because of that uneasy, uncomfortable, I don't belong, I'm not accepted, nobody likes me, nobody invites me, all of that monkey brain garbage that goes on in my head. It gave me an opportunity to say, no, they did invite you back to their cabin. They did ask if you wanted a gummy. They did ask if you wanted a drink. They did ask if you wanted to do a shot. They did ask. And when I said no, thank you, they were like, oh, okay. And they just did it. And then we went on our merry way and did something else. There was not a lot of focus on that. And it was really, really uplifting. And it allowed me an opportunity to work through all of those experiences that I had growing up, moving like 19 times in 18 years, being the new girl, never feeling accepted, never feeling welcomed. It was up to me to put myself into conversations, which is unnerving and uncomfortable, but it was really good practice for me. Because it's a lot easier to just sit in my cabin, in my bed, and scroll social media when I could than to do that. And that wasn't the point of going. So there you go. I survived. I hope you survived the weekend. I hope that me doing this, that you don't just live vicariously through me, but that this is an invitation to do something that's outside your comfort zone, whether it's going to a grown-ass ladies camp in the middle of Nowheresville, Texas, or going out and learning how to windsurf, or, I don't know, doing, going to a retreat by yourself, or signing up for a trip all by yourself where you don't know anyone. I hope that this encourages you to do something outside your comfort zone, because you just never know. It's so much more enriching for life to actually experience it, and to just stay in our comfort bubble doesn't allow us to experience so much that life has to offer. And so cheers, my friend, to a memorable, magnificent weekend. And a marvelous way to start my week. I hope that you're starting it off on the same type of foot. And if not, shift that mindset and get that one mindset back on track so that you have a marvelous, magical, magnificent rest of your week. But don't fret. I'll be back tomorrow. See ya.